Welcome back, everybody, to the Birdies and Bourbon Show. We're happy once again to have Mr. Jon Tattersall on with us. Jon, cheers.
Cheers. I'm staying with tea at this time of day, but I'm scared you're going to have to ask me something. I have to sound intelligent, so I thought I might stay sober for a few minutes.
That's why Dan has me on the show, Jon. As long as I'm here, you'll always sound intelligent, my friend.
Okay, good. Perfect. Good. All right.
So true.
Winning.
So true.
Let's see. So before we get started, I don't think we've had a chance to chat. I almost want to say in person, but it's not. It feels like this is in person at this point. It's been going on for so long.
Exactly.
But virtually. So thanks for connecting us with Wes Durham. We really appreciate that.
Good. Great guy. I'm glad you got that with him.
Yeah, I had an awesome time with him. So hopefully, I know he's not sick necessarily, but I hope things are going well for him. So missed the football this weekend, but yeah. So
Wes scared Cal with his golf game.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. He was talking about it, and it automatically went to how many strokes am I going to get, and they're negotiating, and yeah, should be.
Yeah, he wasn't very forgiving, I can tell you that. So he pretty much said,
don't lose a bet on the first tee.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. So here we are. We're it's kind of weird. We're in the 2021 season of golf already.
Yes, according to the PGA Tour, but according to everybody else, yes. It's 2020 still.
Yeah, that's right. What? So did you enjoy your break?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I've been playing a lot of golf this year, so I don't mind that. And I was on the West Coast working, which was great. So thank you for Delta for getting me around the country nicely. So yeah, if you can call it a break. I don't actually work, really, do I? So, you can't,
hey, you heard it here. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Cal knows that feeling for sure.
Yeah, well, hey, when you drink this much, sometimes it seems like a job. I'm just telling you. Just saying.
Where did you go on the West Coast, Jon?
I was in Oregon. I was in Eugene and Bend, which was phenomenal. One of my friends is a coach out at Eugene Country Club, so I got to spend some time out there. I actually spent some time working with Casey Martin and some of his guys, which was pretty interesting. And for those that don't know Casey, he played at Stanford, played with Tiger, but he was born with a circulation problem in his right leg. So basically, he has a right leg, but he cannot stand on it, really. He broke it last fall, which complicated things. So, and he won on the web.com tour. So he was the guy that had the issue, should we say, with the PGA Tour trying to get the use of a golf cart to play on tour, which if you see him move around now, it's a valid need. But hell of a player, really good. But interesting from my world, trying to figure out how do you get someone to perform better when they're not performing functionally as a normal golfer. So how do you work around that? And hits it way better than people with full use of two legs. So it was pretty fascinating. It was good stuff.
Yeah,
beautiful part of the world.
Yeah, when was he, that was maybe, I don't know, like 15, 20 years ago? Was it that far back?
It's probably 20 years ago now, yeah. I think the 97 Open was when the USGA allowed him to use a golf cart, but it wasn't a full golf cart. It was at Olympic. And if you know Olympics like this on the side of the hill, and he's on one of these little narrow golf cart things. And so it was almost a bigger pain in the butt, I think, just getting around on that than it was. The regular golf cart would have been just fine. It was like there was just, anyway. So it's a long time ago. They had to do something.
Yeah. It's I can remember vaguely, but I do remember in his caddy. Oddly, his caddy had to carry he was still carrying the clubs, and Casey was driving. Oddly enough, but I'm kind of scratching my thinking about it now. You brought it up. It's kind of like, well, wait a minute. What does it matter if the caddy rides with him or walks? The player's the player. What's the caddy got? It's like it didn't really make any sense. But rules are rules, I guess. Whatever.
Pace of play would be the only scenario, I would imagine. So yeah, and just logistically moving around at a major, unlike this week is not normal, obviously, but moving around at a major is usually a major pain in the backside, basically. So
sure,
it's going to be before we start talking about it, it's going to be very interesting with having, this isn't the first major, obviously, for the year, but it feels like a normal setting, if you will. We hadn't been out to Harding Park before for a major, been to Winged Foot before, so it's going to be very interesting to see how that feels, how the course feels, what it looks like, and all the rest of it. So, an interesting week. Be good to see.
Yeah, you're well ahead of Dan and I. We were going to give you a chance to talk about Fusion ATL, but we can keep on this track, or we can circle back to it. Up to you, man.
Yeah, but whatever you want to do. I'm good with talking about the U.S. Open. I've actually done some prep.
Oh well.
Yeah.
All right,
John, did you put $45,000 down on Phil this week?
If I had it to put on it, I probably wouldn't do that anyway. But yeah, somebody's, wow.
Good.
How about that one?
I mean, all I can imagine is somebody said, "I'll bet you 100,000. You won't bet 45,000."
That is a strong possibility, actually. Yeah. Hey, y'all, watch this kind of thing. Is that what you say?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What a story that would be if he won, though. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Good Lord, man! I mean, talking about putting a banner on a career year, or on a Hall of Fame career. I mean, hell, could you imagine? That's well. Think about this. You got Stuart Sink that won last week. I mean, obviously a little bit of a weaker field than what we're going to see this week. But I mean, still a 47-year-old, for Stuart Sink, it was his 7th tour win. And, you've got, he's playing with, mid 20-year-olds out there that are playing good golf. I mean, last week they were playing good out there. So
they're all really good. I mean, and I had the pleasure of working with Stuart a few years ago, and he was still swinging 119, 120 miles an hour. So it wasn't normally as you age, your speed goes down and you just can't compete. But Stewart's still obviously very, very good and plenty fast enough. And that's usually the determining factor on how you can actually score. Mickelson obviously has gotten faster in the last few years through doing stuff with my friends at TPI, with Dave and Greg. So it's, from my perspective as a coach, it's fascinating to see what can be done. So clearly hitting it far enough is not going to be an issue for Phil. He's worked on that, keeping it this way.
Hitting fairways may be an issue.
Could be an issue. But
the good news about Phil, though, I mean, it doesn't get in his head. I mean, shit. I guess if you play your whole career and you miss you miss more than 50% of the fairways anyway, it's like, oh, that's fine. Hey, I got that shot. No big deal.
Yeah. He's been everywhere you can think of on a golf course, basically, and got out of it. And I tell players and kids particularly, if you look at Mickelson play, he's got what I think major champions have. I mean, they have many attributes, but almost selective amnesia is what I call it. Like, he can hit a terrible shot, like, oh my God, what the hell happened? And stands up on the next tee and grabs driver and hits it hard again. Right. I mean, it's like a goldfish. He's got a 10-second memory, which is what you need as a performer. You cannot live back this way. You're always trying to go forward and debrief at some point. But
you've already played those holes.
You played those holes, they can only hurt you if you carry them with you, and that's easy to say. But he is, he probably is scared on some level, but I haven't seen him show it.
He doesn't show it. Yeah,
incredible. No.
Yeah. Hey, so that's an interesting topic or point you bring up. So thinking about, it's been a couple things that you mentioned I want to touch on. So you being in the on the fitness side of golf, obviously an instructor and a coach, but you're heavily involved with Fusion ATL and the fitness side of it. Did you see the picture, the comparison of Phil 2006 and then Phil 2020? Holy shit, man! I mean, what? I mean, you can tell it's the same guy, but if you didn't know anything about golf, if you didn't know anything about golf and you just held it up and said, "Hey, who do you think these two people are?" It wouldn't surprise me for somebody to go, "Well, okay, I don't know who this one is, but this is probably his brother."
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
I mean,
so this coffee company, Dave and Phil. Dave Phillips is my good friend from Titleist Performance Institute. So Dave makes the coffee for Phil, and now Phil's like, hey, we should make a business of this. So now they're in the coffee business. And I travel with Dave quite a bit when it's normal situations, and he's up every morning making phenomenal coffee. So now he's actually going to it's really good. I don't know how he does it, but that's pretty impressive stuff. Yeah. And apparently you can lose weight on it. So who knew?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Bourbon hasn't treated me that kindly, and I'm not 50 yet. So, we'll see. You got the selective amnesia though from Bourbon, probably. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't let anything, the bad stuff doesn't get my way. Yeah. So, let Dave know, man. We'd love to have him on the show and talk about his coffee for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, okay, let's get to the Open.
Hold on, 1 second.
Okay, all right.
So, John, you said you saw the picture of Phil, and he's probably 30, 40 pounds less now than he was back then, maybe?
Yeah, I
But
mean,
you
the
also
PGA
said
Tour said 200 pounds back then, but it wasn't.
okay. But then you also said a minute ago he's been working with TPI, and his ball speeds are faster now than they were then.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, he's always had Sean Cochran, I think, is the guy that he's always worked with from strength and conditioning. So I've been, when we're at tournaments, you're usually trying to go, if we're at a resort or a hotel, you're going into the gym to work out. And he's been in there quite a bit all the years with Sean, and Sean's got some martial arts background. And so Phil has been overweight, but I would never, ever want to fight him or run into him. He's a strong guy. He just ate too much by his own admission. So he's cut back. He's changed his diet. He had some rheumatoid arthritis stuff, I think, from diet. But he's always been very, very strong and functionally very strong. And then Dave and Greg did 3D with him. This is probably 2 years ago now. And he's always loved to hit it a long way. So he's always tried to do what the long drive guys do. And he was extending. So he was moving in toward the golf ball in the backswing, basically. And then moving further in toward the golf ball coming down. So his ability to get his arms swinging clearly and swing past him was not there. So they made him feel like he was actually jumping backwards, essentially, creating space. And his club speed went up. And when they worked with him, was right before he played Tiger in that $9 million match, which, of course, he won. So they went over to the house and worked with him at the house and set up the 3D, all this kind of stuff. And he must have some kind of range there. And Greg Rose, who's the chiropractic, the physical side of the thing, and Dave Phillips is the golf pro. He's my side of the equation. Greg's like worked with so many players, he didn't care that Phil's Phil, which is a perfect mindset you got to be in. It's like, I don't care who it is, I got to tell you what you need to know. And he's like, look, I want you to feel like you're going to jump backwards or don't move in toward the golf ball. And Mickelson's like, I'm going to whiff it. And he goes, you're not going to miss it. You're not going to miss it. And Greg's like, we could be one and done here. And it could be, he's wired up with a 3D on. He goes, try and hit it as hard as you can. Try and move away from the golf ball. And he said, there's cars parked up by the house or something like that. Greg's like, this could be like, the ball could be in the cars in a minute and we're out of here in 2 minutes. And he striped it. He's like, there's no way I can do this. You guys are, full of shit. And he striped it and he goes, oh, okay. And then he played, so you're dealing with phenomenal athletes. The reason we try and measure so much is they can do what you're asking them to do. So we really want to be sure that what we're asking you to do is our very, 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 very best guess of what we need to do. And having all this great technology has helped us measure. But even in that situation, Greg was like probably 1,000% right, knowing Greg in his mind. And he still was like, this could go badly in 2 seconds and we're out. But no, it went great. And he's played well and his speed's gone up. And he's still working with Sean. So he's lost weight. He's still functional. And he's got some technique stuff he's working on. So all the things we try and do with players doesn't always go that well, but that's what we try and do with players all the time.
But the fundamentals are there. So it's not, if you're teaching, if I'm coming in and you've got Dan or myself or somebody and you're telling me if you feel like I'm going to jump back, I'm probably going to fall flat on my ass, right? Because I'm probably going to really jump back. So
no, you'd be shocked. You could not jump backwards hitting a golf ball, honestly, because what's happening is, particularly the speeds they're swinging at, but you guys are swinging fast enough. The weight of the golf club is going this direction away from you. So when you swing a golf club, and this is what, Bryson DeChambeau and Chris Como have worked on, the amount of force that's pulling toward the golf ball, because the club weighs about a pound. In Mickelson's case, it's going about 120 miles an hour around him, plus the radius of his arms. It's pulling about 160, 70 pounds toward the golf ball. So imagine trying to jump backwards when 160 pounds is pulling you forwards. It's nigh on impossible.
In that case, it'd pull me forward. Yeah.
You would go with it, and you would get pulled by it toward the ball, and you're like this at impact,
right?
I'm wondering why you can't hit it anywhere. So if people want to look at, like, Justin James is a world long drive guy, he's probably not. Kyle Berkshire is at the moment. Justin James, if you look down the line at his swing, and Dave and Greg have worked with him, he actually jumps backwards 6 inches as he's swinging the golf club at 150 miles an hour around him, and just the just the energy that's being produced in a system like that is like, for the average person, is just, they didn't even know that was a thing. But for me that knows what it is, it's just still mind blowing how you can jump this way when something's pulling you that hard toward the camera.
Yeah, it makes me think of like Justin Thomas comes to mind immediately. Just when he's swinging through and his, you know, his front foot. I mean, he's lit, like when he's coming down, his front foot looks like it's almost off the ground completely. Like he is kind of jumping at the ball, which, you know, I would think if you've ever had any instruction, people are telling you, oh, don't jump, but he's not jumping. I'm visualizing what you're saying, and he's actually not jumping at the ball. It's just the inertia or the momentum that makes it look like that in the speed, right?
It's the ground reaction forces. So what you're trying to do with these players is like, think of a plane. So if you have a very fast jet, it's thrust to weight ratio. So how much power you can produce versus how much do you weigh? Justin Thomas doesn't weigh much, but he could probably jump. So we test vertical with players. The long drive guys, their verticals are in the 30 inches usually. PGA Tour are low 20s. So Justin Thomas can probably jump in the low to mid 20s vertically.
Right.
So to jump that high, you have to put pressure into the ground. So when we see them jumping, that's a reaction. They've applied, when they get to the top of the swing, they're applying so much vertical force into the ground pushes back. And so you see them in the air. So they are loading the ground, first of all. So if we see ankle injuries, knee injuries, hip injuries in the lead leg, it's a problem because the amount of force that leg takes in the golf swing is dramatic. And so he knows he's jumping in the air because he's seen it. But I don't think he ever tried to jump in the air. I think he was a small kid, had to hit it hard, and used every conceivable piece of his body to hit the golf ball.
Sure.
And so if you've got anybody out there that's got kids and they're jumping in the air or they're extending into the ball, I don't care. I want them to feel what it feels like to create speed. We can always bring technique to speed. We cannot bring speed to technique. That once that ship has sailed, it's very hard to get it that direction.
The newer guy on tour that just made Rookie of the Year that I kind of think of when you're talking about jumping away from the ball is maybe like a Scotty Scheffler. Is that one? Is he
absolutely?
Kind of
Absolutely. Yeah. If you look at his action, like not a conventional looking golf swing, but look at his lower body action. Like his arms are up quite high. So you'd never see, I want to say never, but I can't think of anybody that has a fairly flat looking golf swing that jumps. They're using more rotational speed as their power source. But you look at more and more players now, the hands are going very high, and they're pushing into the ground, they're jumping and rotating. So I tell players, look, twist happens. We're trying to interact with the ground. If your feet interact correctly and you're turned in the backswing, that the forces you create twisting. Whereas a lot of people try and twist and they create no actual speed because they're trying to actually twist. The twist is almost a consequence of other things that are going on. And people get it in the wrong order, unfortunately. They twist and then it's like the air's gone out of the balloon. The energy's gone this way and we needed more down energy and then out of the ground energy. So kids are listening out there, just try and hit as hard as you can. And a good coach will figure out how to make it go straight.
Or call Jon Tattersall at Fusion ATL.
That's always, that phone hasn't broken yet, so you keep calling. Yeah.
All right. I'm steering us now I'm going to the U.S. Open. You've done your research. So first question, have you played Winged Foot?
A number of times, yeah. Very, very difficult.
Okay, so difficult.
Understatement, actually.
Yeah, it's it's kind of weird. We were, we do a little DraftKings show on Monday, and we were doing some research, and not in the research side, we're not necessarily listening to players because they're not really speaking and talking about the course yet. That's happening today and tomorrow, kind of thing, right? But so prior to it's the Dan and Cals, right? It's the people that the hackers out there that are looking at stats and such and trying to make some guesses, and everything was kind of leading down the road of okay, well, it's going to be the rough, and it's not going to favor the bombers, and it's going to be you can play the. I wouldn't really say anybody's out there as a short hitter. In comparison, there's some shorter hitters. So, even the long hitters are long, but it's like, you got to look at fairways and you got to look at, approach. And I agree with the approach and I agree with the accuracy, but it was kind of interesting to hear, who DJ, JT, Rahm, and Bryson said, they said, hey, are you going to, everybody's talking about the rough, are you going to change your game up? He said, I'm going to hit it as far as I can. And I'll worry about it when I get there, because everybody's really talking about the rough and how demanding it's going to be. And I don't know if you saw the, the post or the meme, or it wasn't a meme, it was a post, and somebody on course, they had the can stuffed down in the, like a soda can. Yeah, they had a soda can that was stuffed in the grass. So you think about like a 12-ounce soda, right? And they pull it out, and it's the tall boy Arnold Palmer. So and you couldn't see it, and they're like, hey, they're probably going to cut it once, and then they're going to let it grow through the week. So I don't know, you wind up with maybe 6+ inches of rough out there at least, at probably its minimum. So how do you played it? It's tough. Sorry, long leading question, but if you, and a lot of these people haven't played the course, they haven't been there on tour since 2006. A lot of the people have kind of stopped in when they've been in the Northeast or whatever. And then, so what's it like if you've got a player that hasn't been there? I mean, what's the preparation look like? And then who do you think's done it right? And who do you think could have done it better leading up to this? If you got any insight there?
Yeah, I don't on who's done it right, who could have done it better, really. I think they're so used to going to courses. I mean, the beauty of being on the PGA Tour is the caddies or the player from the previous year. We have the pin locations. We know where they were last year. We're looking in our books from last year. We know what clubs we hit, what time of day they played, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of things you can do that can help gain confidence by looking back at what you've done in previous years. Very few players are in this field that played in 06, I think, was when Mickelson lost. Yeah. And Mickelson's not the same player he was in 06. So it's like the Masters is one where you're going back every year to the same course, but most of the time you're going through the same process. I mean, the players feel different every week to week. The swing feels a little different. So there's not a lot can be gained from that. There's some familiarity, but it's much more about how do the holes look to certain players that kind of feel more comfortable seeing that type of hole and seeing what they have to do, rather than like what can be gained from what's going on in the past. And so what'll be a Tuesday today? It's the longest day of a major championship, I think, is Tuesday, because everybody's going to play a practice round, unless like Tiger was there on Sunday, so he may have played 9. He may play 9, 9, and 9, and 9 tomorrow. Most players are getting in Monday. Today's a full day. Tomorrow, if they feel comfortable, they'll just play 9 holes and hit some balls. Like, they know it's a long week, so they're saving their energy. Today, we're usually out there looking at lines off the tee. We're considering it, we know what the wind is probably going to be for the week, and you're looking at prevailing wind, and the sight lines off the tee is such a big deal. A lot of times at these courses, the way they do the mowing patterns, it's not obvious standing on the tee where you need to hit it in the fairway. If it's a slight dog leg, they let the rough grow, so you can't quite see the fairway, but then you get out there, there's plenty of fairway there. So you're trying to figure out the ideal line off the tee and take into account what the wind could change. And also, when I looked at the weather, it looks like it's going to get drier the rest of the week. So now you're looking at your aim points, and then you're looking at your run outs, because as it starts to firm up, it starts to run out through the rough. Sure. And so you're trying to figure those things out, and then you're doing your best guess on the greens. And this is, typically we either have those ghost holes, those fake holes. When I coached the Swedish players, they had dip cans. So I'd have dip cans and I'd throw those on the green for the holes to try and figure out where they're going to be. And so my job as a coach is I'd go on the green. They would hit a shot to the pin because it's just on the green. It's usually in a pretty benign position. And then they'd hit. You're not really allowed to hit multiple shots into the greens, whereas players will do. If your name's Tiger or something like that, you do what the hell you want. But most players are only allowed one shot into the green, unless you miss a green, and you can hit another. But then when around the green, we're putting the pin, or we're putting tees down, or putting cans down to figure out where we think the pins are going to be. And then the players will throw the balls off onto the edge of the green and hit shots and that kind of thing, and putt to different locations. So it usually, it's a 6-hour round, basically. It's a long day because you're trying to get all your work done today. And then Wednesday, it's depending on the player as to how much they want to practice. If they're feeling pretty good, they're not going to wear themselves out because they're anticipating they're going to be there all week. And it's a long week if you're early late, and then ideally you're late on the weekend. So you're trying to conserve energy, and the mental energy to compete at that level is pretty significant. I mean, when they get done with a round, they're pretty wiped, and it's not physical particularly. It's more just the absolutely left everything out there ideal scenario. So they're in energy conservation mode, but it doesn't matter quite as much, I think, in a good way. If you're overthinking the course, you see too much, and they're so good at just seeing what they want to see, getting a good feel, and then hitting the shots. It's like you want to be prepared, but not overly prepared where you're worrying about every damn thing out there, because you just, it's just too much information a lot of times.
Yeah.
John, so real quick, Cal, not to go too far off topic here, but when you see a guy like DJ at Eastlake on Sunday night with the Monday finish, and he's pounding balls to like 7 o'clock, 7:30 at night, as a coach, does that scare you that he's playing too much that day?
It depends on, I mean, he's physically able to do it. It depends on, could he trust? I don't think they're working on something new. I think they're trying to hone a feel that they had, and he probably thought he couldn't trust something that day. Okay. So he's trying to hit certain shots in practice that he knows he's going to face the next day to try and get that comfort level up, or get feedback as to, why is the ball doing that when I'm trying to do this? Okay. So he's kind of, running through some kind of scrubber of like, why is the ball not quite performing like I want it to? And so some players get comfort from hitting golf balls. Some players are like, I've done enough. I'm just going to overthink it. I'm out. No insult to DJ. Highly unlikely he's going to overthink anything anytime soon. Right? But he is able to do what he's trying to do, and that is the beauty of a coach. Like Claude's a friend of mine. I mean, he batters in with data, he says. So he's like, look, you're not doing this part well. Let's keep getting better at this part. And then DJ is just like goes and does it. So, it's unusual you'd see somebody practice that much that the night before, but clearly he wasn't comfortable with something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, to your point, you talk about Phil. He get DJ same thing. He in the shot, and he knows what he needs to do, and it doesn't go the right way. It's not like he's not going to let it bother him on the next one, right?
No, and that's a great thing. No matter who you are, the better you can leave it behind you. Now, what most players want to know is not particularly what happened, but what do they need to do? Like, why is that? Yeah, give me an explanation or give me a reason why that's happening, but tell me what the hell to do.
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't want to spend too much time on this guy. He's not in the tournament, but he withdrew. So what do you think about Brooks, man? I mean, he talked a lot. He talked a lot of trash coming up to game time, and then now all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm out. I mean, I hope if he is injured, I hope he gets well soon. But it's kind of, if you're gonna go on with all that, man, I mean that's a lot to put out on the line and then not show up.
Yeah, I think we talked about it a little bit. Like some players just need that factor to just get them fired up to, make them work hard and all the rest of it. And look, anytime there's an injury to a player, I feel bad. I mean, Brooks has contracts, so I don't feel as bad. but it's like they're athletes and they want to perform, and he can't perform. And it's like, I remember years ago there was a thing with one of the special forces, and they were going into a battle. And some news reporter was like, I'm so sorry you got to go do this. He goes, dude, I've worked all my life for this.
I'm ready. Yeah.
I'm ready. We have trained for this moment. So, that's how athletes are. They've trained very hard to go do what they're trying to do. And the thing that concerns me a little bit, I think it's a left knee injury. Again, anytime there's a lead leg injury, I'm a little more concerned because of the amount of pounding that takes place in that side of the body. He's young enough, but look, Tiger's had multiple left knee injuries, and they accumulate. So
for sure.
And does he use this as a motivator to get better and stronger and come back? Highly likely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. All right. So you did some homework. So who do you like this week, man?
Oh well, I'm terrible at that, but I've got. So I would say. So thinking about what's going on with, I know Winged Foot from playing it. and you're also hearing stuff about the rough. Driving the ball, obviously, very, very important. The other thing I look for is you got to have somebody that can hit the ball quite high and far with the irons, just because most of the greens are elevated. So if you are out of position, you have to have the trajectory to get it up in the air and hit it hard enough. So I don't disagree that the bombers, the people saying you need to hit in the fairway, it may not be an advantage to the bombers. Everybody's going to miss fairways at some point, no matter who you are. And the problem with when you're not one of the longer hitters, you're back further down the fairway, and now you are literally you're hoping to wedge it close.
Yeah.
Whereas the DeChambeaus and the rest of them, they've got a chance to get it somewhere near the green from the rough. They may not get it on the green, but they're going to get it closer to the green. So we just know from doing this, the closer we get it to the green, the more chance we've got of scoring better. So I still look for a longer player. I think Jon Rahm will be absolutely perfect for this, given the fact he's plenty long, but he's also straighter than average for that length player. I honestly don't know how bad the rough is. I've seen the pictures, but it's not Bermuda grass. So like East Lake was only this long, but that long of Bermuda grass is probably this long as fescue. So
yeah, sure.
Some of it is kind of positioning and talking crap to see, who's going to be scared by it. But they've seen rough before, and I think it's more of it's the rough is going to present an issue from figuring out where you want to be off the tee, but it's really what does it let you do to the green, because the greens are typically longer than they are wide, and the bunkers are quite deep on each side. So yes, driving is important. I see someone that's a good iron player as having an advantage, and not quite the same as Augusta, but similar. The greens are very undulating and very, very quick. So again, putting's important. Touch is really, really important. Like distance putting would be something else I'd look for. So I like Rahm every time at the moment. DJ, obviously, I mean, talk about being able to, everybody's going to make bogeys. So can you have the mindset of a DJ where you make a bogey and you shake it off and you're on to the next hole?
Sure.
So, he's playing phenomenal. Someone like that would be great. My friend Mark Blackman coaches Ches Reavie at the other end of the spectrum, who hits probably more fairways and is a great iron player. So sorry to jinx you, Ches and Mark, but that could be someone like that, like Kevin Kisner, Brandon Todd, those kind of players. I think Kis probably more than Brendan. I think he's a little bit longer. Would be a good pick.
Webb goes in that category.
Say who was that?
Webb Simpson.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so someone that could miss greens and like Webb is almost one of those guys that could miss nearly every green and still shoot par. He's a phenomenal wedge player. So think of guys like that can get out of position and then recover well. He'd certainly be in that category for sure. Driving wise, he's not quite as good. He can be a little flaky with the driver, relatively speaking. So I would say that that could be more of an issue, but he's played phenomenal this year. So and he's won a US Open before. So
yeah, exactly.
That mindset does help, I'm sure.
Yeah, so that's and I've heard nothing but positive things, at least. So we, as lay people, Dan and I mean, we don't hear the behind the scenes stuff, but everybody's been very positive about the setup, about the question. They don't know the actual setup yet. They don't know pin placements, but they haven't, a couple people, Patrick Reed, shocking. He was bitching about the rough, which I mean, with his wedge game and around the green, I don't know why he's complaining. I guess maybe off the tee, but what do the players think behind the scenes as far as the US Open setup? I mean, are we getting the real story when they're being interviewed and from the media, or is it the camera's off and the microphone's off and then or is it a mixed bag?
It's a mixed bag. I mean, it's very dependent on how they play. I was at Merion, and the players thought that was phenomenal. I was at Pinehurst; it was a little different. But in general, it depends on how they're playing. But like Shinnecock, for instance, I mean, they lost it again there. Basically, they screwed up there. So it's unfortunate. In general, I think they have an idea of what the score should be before they before the tournament starts.
Right.
And so then if any conditions go badly, that score just becomes unobtainable. So I think their philosophy is a little screwed up, to be honest with you. I mean, they've said that they're trying to identify the best player in the world, and they haven't done it each year for quite a number of years, really. So probably Gary Woodland was one of those guys who was never won a major, probably should have done. That was a good one. But Pebble Beach is such an iconic location. I think it was hard to mess that up. But Erin Hills, they kind of messed that up. Shinnecock definitely messed it up. If you look back over the last few years, they haven't had the best player winning.
Yeah.
And whereas like the PGA have done a pretty good job, and they have a fair course set up, and they don't really have a score in mind. Whereas the USGA got a bit too fixed on that, I think, I think they did kind of hold their hand up and say, you know what, we did screw up a little bit. As much as they're going to say it. But a lot of the pros in a disrespectful way, sometimes they're like, look, we've got an amateur group running professional events. Yeah. That is more what you'll hear behind the scenes from players.
That's fair.
But if you played badly and you tried your ass off to try and play well, you're not going to come off going, no, it's great out there. It's not a member guest. Right. No. Yeah. As Kisner says, this isn't a hobby,
That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jon, help Cal out. He's dead set on some guys this week, and number one, I'll pick one from your neck of the woods, and then one not too far from your neck of the woods, and just help him out here. What do you think about Tommy Fleetwood and then Martin Kaymer?
Tommy Fleetwood, yes, really, really good ball striker. Suspect a touch with the putter. But if you're trying to hit greens and two putt, then that lets a lot of that makes it a bit easier. Unless Kaymer can do something around these greens, if it's so tough around the greens that nobody can really do much, then possibly. Generally speaking, Kaymer's not a good pitcher or chipper of the ball, relatively speaking. Like at Pinehurst when he won, you basically could putt from everywhere around those greens. Mm-hmm. So I'd really be surprised about Kaymer. Tommy Fleetwood, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, he is solid. I mean, he is an impressive ball striker, both off the tee and into the green. So, yeah, he'd be one that I'd like to see do well for sure. Not just because he's from my neck of the woods.
Well, maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit.
Oh, yes, definitely some bias there, but I'm very impressed with him.
But and both of those guys have been playing really well in Europe. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're again different courses that they're going to be. They're showing up at New York this week for sure. So
yeah. I mean, I was at the PGA when Kaymer won. And I think it was it 2010? I think when Dustin had his rules issue. I was at Pinehurst when Kaymer won there. The Saturday morning, I was with the caddies when we were at tour events, and we were in the caddy area. Actually, on Tuesday, I was there with a player on the range, and Kaymer's there, and he's got this string around his neck with a tennis ball. And I knew he hadn't played well for a little while, and he's hitting balls next to us. I'm like, well, this guy's got no freaking chance. And then on Saturday, his caddy came in, Weemon, the Scottish guy, and he came in, and the other caddies are like, which course did you play? Because you sure as shit didn't play the course we've been on the last 2 days. Because he was 10 under par after 2 rounds, and everybody else was even. I think he had like a 10-shot lead or something like that after 2 rounds. So, he's not scared. So if someone like that, they get, again, back to the amnesia thing, the press tend to go, well, this guy hasn't played well for a long time. And the player's like, if I play well and I feel it, I can win. And that's what you want from a player. They're not sitting there usually thinking of all the things that are wrong. They're not normal humans. They're thinking about, I can win this week. So
what did
you want that
on his neck for? Why did he have it around his neck?
You've seen them now. They've got this. It's like a string, and then he's got a tennis ball that fit between his arms. So when he's standing there, so now it synchronizes his arms with his body.
Gotcha.
And he was doing that, and he's like, every swing, he's got to take this tennis ball, like he's strangling himself, and stick it back in his arms. And he's German, so he's very methodical. So he's doing that. And I'm over there like, yeah.
He shows up with these hickeys on his neck after the round, and his wife's like, where the hell have you been? You haven't.
Yeah.
What do you think about the U.S. Open locking in all those dates at Pinehurst, like through 2047 or something?
Oh, I mean, I like Pinehurst. The first club I worked at when I came to the States was Country Club in North Carolina in Pinehurst, and so I've played number 2 quite a bit. I think it's awesome from a golf course perspective. I think it's a lot of a financial. There's some, there's some reason why just these tournaments now are getting so huge, and it's like the infrastructure you need around them, and all the other pieces you need are massive. So if you get some kind of scenario like that where clearly it works, logistics are pretty easy. Almost like the Masters, it's like they've got everything in place every year. They can just roll it out. So on the one hand, I'm a little disappointed at some of the older clubs and that kind of thing. We won't be going back there, but this is not a quaint tournament anymore. This is like a major sporting event, and I think they're looking at it from that perspective. And I know there's certain courses in certain parts of the world the USGA are just not probably going to go back to because of, it's like dealing with the state, dealing with all the other stuff they have to deal with. It's hard work. I mean, it's not an easy thing. So
for one time a year, right? So
for one time a year, I mean, they make the money on this tournament to underwrite all the other things they do for amateur golf. Right. So they've got to get it right. They don't have the ability to kind of whiff on one, and now now you're back to everything else suffers. I mean, when Fox signed up their deal with the USGA, I think that was awesome. That deal's gone away. And so I think NBC's got it again. I'm sure they're paying them well. But I think the Fox deal was so good, it allowed them to do some things. Might have been a sharp intake of breath. Now they're back with NBC. I mean, NBC are probably like, yeah, we'll do it, but, we're not going to do it for whatever. So, I mean, there's a lot of other issues going into it, apart from the fact that Pinehurst is a great venue.
I never thought about the Fox, NBC, and Pinehurst being announced like that timeline. And then I think they're going to do some kind of museum or not a Hall of Fame, but a museum kind of thing or something there as well.
Yes, and a testing center. So you think about, they're probably getting a deal on the land or something like that. So there's a lot of pieces that I think the USGA needed. Yeah. I mean, trying to do a testing center in Far Hills, New Jersey, when it's freezing your ass off after a year, that doesn't work. So I think there was things the USGA needed, and they need to get the US Open right because that underwrites so many other things. So I can see it making sense from that perspective. And so I mean, it's great for Pinehurst. It's it's like,
yeah, no kidding. We don't have to make any more plans until 2047, right? So.
Yeah, if I'm still here at that point. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Other than just their, whatever their regular tournaments are that they have and such.
North and South, yeah.
That kind of opens things, frees them up, man. I mean, they're in pretty good shape after that. So.
Yeah, it's good for them.
What else you want to share about the Open?
So, I mean, one of the things that I think is pretty cool is the Open has fun with how they do the pairings. So I made some notes on some of the pairings, and I got one that's the least words spoken pairing.
Oh, I want to hear this. I haven't seen this.
Yeah. Patrick Reed, Jordan Spieth, and Hideki Matsuyama.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
That could be a hello and thank you at the 18th.
So Hideki doesn't care because he's not saying anything anyway.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk to Patrick Reed, and Pat's used to that, so he's fine.
Yeah, he's fine.
And not even that. I mean, and Spieth and Greller, I mean, they're probably not going to be talking much either. So,
yeah. So it's like, they don't want to mic up that group because there'll be nothing much to say.
Hold
tapping the microphone. Is this on?
Hold on though. This could be a great strategy because it's been, the players have been like, hey, I don't want to be mic'd up because you don't want to hear what I'm saying. If I start cussing or something, I'm going to get fined or I'm going to get yelled at. And it's like, shit, I've got the perfect group. Actually, John has the perfect group. Mic them up. You're not going to have to bleep anything out. You're all good.
No. Yeah, be perfect. Be perfect. And then there's who hits it the furthest group.
Oh.
Yeah, that's DeChambeau, Dustin. And who's he playing with? He's at, who's the third one in that one? Finau.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So Finau is going to just get, he's going to, okay, boys. Then about the fourth hole, he's going to go, and he's going to go, oh, shit.
That's true.
So he's probably longer than both of them. both Dustin and Bryson, but he just doesn't use it very often.
You think Finau is?
Oh yeah, not even close.
They played that 4th round at the PGA together, DeChambeau and Finau.
Yeah.
Oh, did they really? Yeah.
So do you think that's going to get in his head at all? And he is actually gonna see these guys kind of. So I mean, as a coach, right? And I mean, you go there with a game plan.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're playing with folks that are hitting it and they're hitting it long, and you've got your game plan. I mean, I guess if you're a professional and you're good at what you do, you don't deviate. But isn't there something in the back of your mind that just kind of bites you and says,
"Oh yeah,
you got to go for it"?
Yeah, probably. I mean, they're probably not in the U.S. Open, but I guarantee you, if one of them hits it past the other one, there's going to be some shit talking going on. Yeah. So, one of the players I used to coach, he was paired with Tiger in the last round of the Players when Tiger won the last time. And Adam was my buddy. We were coaching this player together. And Adam was caddying that week for Casey. And he knew that Casey hit it past Tiger on one hole. And so Adam went up and put the bag down next to Tiger's ball and was like acting like he's getting the yardage. And Tiger's like, what the fuck are you doing? oh, I'm sorry. We hit it past you. I didn't realize that. And this is the last round of the Players when, Tiger won. But,
sure.
Perfect.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
Yeah. But so there's all of that going on usually.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a long time between shots. There's a lot of stuff you got to talk about to just stop yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't have a good time, right? I mean, it's. I mean, if you're out there just busting it, I mean, you turn into I don't know. Look at Spieth. I mean, his kind of head looks like it's crazy, and maybe that's the reason. It's like he's not. Is he able to enjoy it? That's the other thing. So.
Yes, if you play well or you do what you're trying to do. I mean, again, you're trying to perform. So some players need to talk, some players need to be quiet. And a good caddy knows when to shut up and keep up, and other times you got to jump in and say something because the guy's losing his mind. So but that's a good scenario where you're out there trying to help the guy perform the way he needs to perform. It's the only sport really we don't get to coach during the game, really. So I like caddying for players a lot of times in tournaments because I can actually see what they're doing. Like, what are they truly saying and how uncomfortable are they with certain shots? Because we can talk about it on the practice tee, but unless you're there seeing what they're saying, can they add up numbers correctly under stress? I mean, it's not as easy to add as you think it is when you can't remember your own name,
We talk a lot about the no fans, John. And we've seen this in terms of the roars and all that. But you just kind of hit on something in terms of, you're from a caddying perspective. But with no fans there, as a coach, is there some advantages to players that maybe lean on it more that are younger? But we saw Morikawa. We've seen a lot of success. Yeah. Could there be some unofficial coaching on the sideline kind of thing going on where you can see your coaches there's no fans there? Yeah,
definitely. I think that I don't think that would happen. But I think the thing that does happen is there's adrenaline flowing, but it doesn't feel the same. And so if you look at the leaderboards, like we chatted about, there's a much more condensed leaderboards now, like guys that would typically not do quite as well. And I would say clearly Tiger is someone that feeds off of that energy. And there's no real energy there to get from. So I mean, if Tiger and you're playing well and it's a Sunday of a major and you got everybody wanting to watch you hit it, that's distracting for the other players usually around you. Right. That's got to be a 1 or 2 shot advantage to you, I would imagine. So players that, like, what they say, Michael Jordan wanted the ball in the last play of the game. There are certain players that want that. There's some players who are quite okay making a bunch of money, walking into a restaurant, nobody would ever know who they are. They're, so that type of player potentially under this situation could perform better because they don't quite have everything going on around them.
Gotcha.
There's another pairing too, the best looking swing pairing.
Oh,
g'day, mate.
There you go. That's one of them.
I know it. Hey, best looking swing on tour.
Yeah, Rory McIlroy, Adam Scott, and Justin Rose. That's 3 good ones.
They're good.
That is 3 good ones.
Yeah.
What are we going to see from? I think we all know. You may have some so you may want to share some more, but I want to go hit straight to Rosie. What are we going to see out of him? Man?
Interesting. I mean, he's stopped working with Sean Foley. Sean's a friend of mine. I think that Sean was a maybe technical, obviously very, very good, but more of like a good coach. I don't think we're going to see much out of him. He could surprise us and do well, but he's certainly shown nothing recently. I think when he played in the PGA, he didn't hit it that well. He putted phenomenally well. And this golf course or any major is going to test ultimately how you're striking it. I mean, generally speaking, the best ball strikers that putt well that week win. So it's like you cannot win these tournaments hitting it average and putting phenomenally. It just wears you out after a while.
Yeah, well, the greens are going to play rough for everybody, though. I mean, I haven't played the course, but I was looking, some of the the drone views of those things.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like shit, man. If you can one putt a few and two putt everything, I mean, you're probably going to be. I mean, I would be ecstatic just to two putt everything. But I mean, for the pros, I mean I mean, those things are going to be just nasty.
Yeah, and I think it's the kind of course too where you could hit 18 greens and score worse than the guy that hits 13 greens and misses it in the right spot, because you could be on some of the greens and be off the green shortly thereafter, because there are severe tilts to them. It depends on where the pin's placed and all that good stuff. So, it's going to be it is a ball striking competition, and the ones that putt the best are going to be near the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, awesome.
It's just too hard tee to green.
Mm-hmm.
Like you cannot hit it poorly and make up for it with putting, because it's like on a 500-yard par 4 with deep rough either side, you're not getting there in 2. So it's like the best you're going to make is 4. 3 is never an option, and sure. 6 is an option. So it's like you got to hit it well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm loving these pairings and the names that you're giving them. So. If we use them again, it's not stealing. That's more of a compliment, right?
No. Yes, absolutely.
We can asterisk before we go through some of these. But I love this, man. This is good.
Yeah. So there was, I won't tell you this one on the air, but anyway, there's a Bulldogs pairing.
A Bulldog pairing.
A Bulldog pairing. That's 734. So that's Brendan Todd, Harris English, and Davis Thompson.
Oh, nice.
Okay,
Bulldogs.
nice.
Yeah. Very nice. Yeah.
Little UGA shout out there.
Mm-hmm. There's a Canadian pairing.
Mackenzie Hughes.
Go on.
I don't know. I don't know the rest of them. You tell me the rest of them.
Corey Connors and Adam Hadwin.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's an Aussie pairing. Let's see.
Jason Day.
No, you won't get this one.
All right. Well, all right. Don't leave me hanging.
Lucas Herbert, Matt Jones, and Lucas Michael.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I would have known that. Yeah.
No, that would have been an awkward silence on the thing. Yeah. And the interesting one is Gary Woodland is playing with Andy Ogletree. Yeah. So he's obviously defending U.S. Open champion. Andy Ogletree, because it should have been played in June, would have been the defending U.S. Amateur champion.
Sure. Yeah.
But he's actually not the current U.S. Amateur champion, but he's playing as though he is defending. So
very cool.
Who the Georgia Tech guy was? For his name slipped my mind, but
Ogletree.
That's
okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But they're back to back.
They're back to back. Yeah. We're talking to Wes about that. Yep.
Yeah. And I can't remember the kid's nname now. We should know because he said it every 5 seconds. He got his entire life history on the U.S. Amateur.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a talent. The kid was his grandfather won some Pub Links, I think.
Yeah.
So it's obviously we're underwhelmed by it. We can't remember.
No.
Completely underwhelmed. No, it's a Georgia Tech guy. I shouldn't say that being in Georgia. No. It'll come to us later. But anyway, so that's why Ogletree is paired with Woodland.
Tyler Strafosky.
There you go.
Well done.
Yeah, you're faster on the keyboard than I was.
Yeah.
I want to make sure
Google it.
Not on the swing though.
I
know we got to get a symbol for this thing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, love it, man. I love those picks. We're definitely going to pull a few coins out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's and the other one, sorry, the major championship pairing, which is Tiger, Justin Thomas, and I forget who else. But what I called that though in my mind was Tiger, who would you like to play with pairing?
Exactly.
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that probably bodes well for JT. I mean, I wouldn't say he's been struggling necessarily, but he looks very frustrated at times on the golf course. He played really well at Eastlake, which he typically does. But I think that he being paired with Tiger, I think that's going to give him a comfort level. I mean, those guys. I mean, he was talking today, just that he got to know him, or he was around him enough as a kid that he stopped the kind of oohing and eyeing over, oh, it's Tiger Woods, and he's like now he's like, when I'm with him, he's like, shit, I want to beat him. He's like, I don't think about, oh, it's Tiger Woods. He's like, oh, it's Tiger Woods. I'm going to beat this guy today. And so I think that bodes really well for JT on, being paired with him. So, yeah.
Yeah. And he's a phenomenal player in his own right. So, I mean, I think there's a healthy respect for Tiger now, but they do want to kick his ass. Whereas it used to be when he came out, there was an awe around him and they couldn't beat him.
Yeah.
Now they know that when he's on, they can't beat him, but 9 times out of 10, almost somebody's going to take him down.
Well, he's gotten old enough, and the kids now are young enough that it's like that the story, the old adage is true, right? I mean, youth prevails, So.
Oh, it does. But also, I think he changed the way that the game is played. So they're all these kids now, and they're not. I mean, they're mid-20s, but they grew up watching him play, hit it hard, hit it high. Go after every par 5. And so like the idea of laying up to a perfect yardage doesn't exist on tour anymore. They're just trying to send it.
Yeah, just send it.
And so they grew up doing that. And so they're playing the game that he played 20 years ago when nobody else was really doing that. Like it used to be the long hitters were, he's a great person to watch and he's entertaining, but he's not going to win much. And now Tiger kind of changed that. He hit it far, putted well. Wedged it better than Greg Norman and all the rest of it. So, pretty impressive.
Yeah, awesome. Well, John, we don't want to keep you all night. I know it's getting kind of late in the evening. We very much appreciate, unless you got something else you want to drop on us.
No. I'm done with my pairings. The other one I'll tell you off air, but
yeah. So, we really appreciate you coming on again. We do have another major coming up in give or take a month or so. So we'd love to have you back on if that's okay.
Yeah, I've played there a few times as well, so I can tell you about that.
Now you're bragging about it. Okay. Oh yeah, I played Wingfoot. I mean, right.
Oh, you got a little pad there.
Yeah, rightfully so. That's a good thing to brag about. I bragged about worse. I can guarantee you that. So
yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's what you do when you go down there. You call everybody you know and say, "Hey, what are you doing today?"
Nice.
Exactly. Well, hey, so we've had a great time chatting with our friend Jon Tattersall from Fusion Atlanta. If you're looking for training, physically, fitness or golf, check him out on Instagram. I think it's Fusion ATL.
It is Fusion ATL and then Tattersall Golf on Instagram as well.
Yeah. If you can't tell, great dude. We really appreciate his time. And I don't know, Dan, anything else?
No, just check him out on the Instagram and whatnot. It's got some great stuff out there, and he's great. And it's perfect. Thanks, John, for coming.
Yeah, and honestly, with this social stuff, if guys tell you or you think of anything people want more information on, because I'm trying to figure out what do people want on Instagram, and I'm trying to not be too overbearing. Like, hey, this kid won this. It's like it's a great medium to get out and put information out. So welcome with any feedback on that kind of stuff from any of your listeners. So
cool.
Let me know.
We will.
Yeah, awesome. We'll do, man. We appreciate it. John.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy. Cheers.
Cheers. Take care.